Welcome and thank you for joining us again here on BTH. We are live on Joy Prime. So today joining us from Kharkiv and Sumy in Ukraine are two Ghanaian students, Mr. Hoto Joseph Kwabla, medical student, and also Kwesi Jebi Minta Benin. Thank you for joining us and good morning if it's morning at yours.
Good morning.
Right. Do you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, great. How are you? How are you doing? And tell us how you're feeling after everything happening in Ukraine. I will maybe let me go to. Okay. Okay. Hi, Kwesi. You can go. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm good, and I'm safe here with my friends at home, and we are observing all the safety protocols given to us by the government and everyone. So we are staying safe. We're okay.
Okay. Especially following the introduction of the martial law by the president, how are you getting food? How are you moving around? Everything. Just give me an update on that.
Okay. So earlier yesterday, my friends and I moved out to get some groceries to stock up on food, water, and first aid supplies. And we've been indoors since. We do not want to go out. We do not have the need to go out. We just want to stay inside. Now we have enough food and water, and we want to see if it can last us as much as it can.
Okay, so let's stay with me in Sumy. How is the situation like particularly? Has there been any military activity over there? Give me all the details on the action happening over there, especially between yesterday and this morning.
Okay, so this morning it's calmer and relatively quiet as compared to yesterday night, because yesterday night we could hear explosives. There was so many explosives and gunshots all over, and I think it was between the two military bases, and it was wild because we were in constant fear, and there were several explosions, and some parts of the city were on fire, and we could see them, we could feel it, but we decided to stay indoors, and some students were moved to the bomb shelters so we could find safe haven there. We could go there for shelter.
Okay.
But today it's calm. It's relatively calm. Okay. We haven't heard any explosions this morning, and the streets are calm, so I think everything is okay.
Okay, let's go to Joseph. Hi, Joseph.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. So you're speaking to us from Kharkiv, that's right?
Yes, please.
Okay, what's the situation like in Kharkiv this morning?
Okay, this morning, Kharkiv, the situation is calm. Yesterday, we moved to the bomb shelter, that's the underground train station. And then we just came out from the underground. We slept there.
Joseph, are you out or you're home? Are you home? Are you able to take off your mask so that we can hear you?
Okay.
Okay.
We just came out from the underground. Okay. And as I'm talking to you now, I came to the school hostel. Now I want to take my bath, and then we will see what we can do. But the situation here this morning is calm, as my colleague said.
Okay, take me back to how you ended up at the underground.
Okay, yesterday it was a massive explosion, and you can see when they blow when the explosion comes, you can feel it. You hear some noise, fume, and then everybody will run, and then in fact you can't even you can't stand it, so you have to run to the underground at the train station. So we went there around 11:45 a.m. Some went earlier, but I went there around 11:45 a.m. till today. This morning, I came to the hostel 8:27 this morning.
Let me understand something. Did you go there by yourself seeking shelter, or you were instructed by some officials? How did you end up there?
We were instructed. We get the information from the authorities before and then yesterday we supposed to have a lecture online, and then some of the lectures today they email us that we should seek for shelter closer, nearer to us. So we follow those instructions.
Okay. But this morning, Kharkiv is calmer, and you feel safe this morning?
Yes, please.
Okay. So what have you been picking up from other Ghanaian students? What have you been gathering?
Okay. This morning, I heard an information that there is a bus which will be going to Lviv. And then they said the cost is $200 for foreigners. So, I mean, it will include both Ghanaians and then the Nigerians as well, so that we will move there to find shelter, and then maybe later we can return back.
Do you have any idea who is in charge or who is arranging this bus?
Oh no, you just we the students for now. That's what is happening now.
Okay, particularly Ghanaian students or African students. When you say students, which group of students?
African students. But the information, I heard the information from the Ghanaian students platform from Kharkiv here.
But have you heard any information from the Ghanaian government? Have you heard anything? What are you supposed to do in Kharkiv currently by very instructions from Ghana government?
I heard an information that the Ghana government is working with the authorities here in Ukraine, so we are safe. We shouldn't go out. We should observe the safety protocols, and they assure us everything is going to be fine.
Okay. Hi, Kwesi. Let me come back to you and also pick up if you have gathered anything particularly from the Ghanaian government there.
As my colleague rightly said, we've been told to adhere to the safety directives that were circulating and sent to us through the social media. And we've been told to stay put and avoid unnecessary movement. And the Ghanaian government will get back to us as and when they can.
When did you hear this?
Found the necessary means to get us out of here. Okay,
when did you hear this, and when did they say they were going to get back? Did they give any timelines?
There was no timeline given. It was yesterday. I think the news started circulating yesterday.
Okay, let's talk to please hold on for me. We'll come back to you to gather more information. But let's talk to Mami Dakwa Winado. She is an international trade law expert. Hi, Mami. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you doing today?
Good, thanks for asking. I knew I was going to talk to you soon, but I do know it was going to be a very conflict. What do you make of everything that's happening?
What did you say, please?
What do you make of the, tension that's brewing between Ukraine, clearly, and then Russia?
Oh, I mean, it's tension that has been building up over time. And so it's not surprising. So obviously, if you're paying we've had issues with that, 2014 with the whole Crimea situation, but that's one fact. But there's also the other side where now you're looking at what Russia has asked Ukraine to be neutral in respect to their stance in the region, because they become they're a member of the EU also, and they've joined NATO. And you know that the US and Russia already have their tensions, after the Second World War, right?
Yes.
And so there's so easy with global politics, there is the issue of interest. So sometimes when things like this happen, if you're not careful, you may try to understand it from the surface. That's what was happening during the Cold War. So when there were issues between Angola and even South Africa at some point, people will be thinking, oh, okay, it's these two countries that are at war. No, it was people behind it, right? Whether it was, with the West versus the East. So to understand these dynamics help. And we have something similar playing out with this Russia and Ukraine situation. So that is good to also have context.
Okay. Before we even go to the economic impact, or even the global impact, Why do you think that Putin actually launched that military operation, particularly that time and that day? Why that time?
Well, I mean, with the time, I cannot say. America was already making predictions in like earlier, saying, "Oh, it will happen on the 16th. It will happen on this day." And if you remember, the Ukrainian president even came out and actually had a discussion. He was upset. He was like, "Hey, you are spreading fear, and you are pulling out, some of your diplomats from our country. This can be handled, diplomatically." Because one thing about conflict is that it's not so much about the conflict as it is about how it's handled.
Right.
You know what I mean? Even if you're in a back and forth with someone, how the thing plays out or how it gets intensified is about how people are telling the story. But one of the big things that we also have to understand is that Germany and Russia have an agreement to build a pipeline that will send gas straight to Germany. And it's been an issue of contention as the US has not been in favor of this.
Yes.
And so, right, that's what I'm saying. It's a very tricky, very, very tricky situation that's ongoing.
Okay.
That sometimes even speaking on it can be a little dicey.
I can understand. So that particular pipeline we're gathering has been blocked, and amongst all the other sanctions that EU has mentioned that they're going to be meting out to Russia, it won't be the first time the EU is actually meting out certain or a level of sanctions, and we've seen Russia not. I'm saying that this won't be the first time the EU would be meting a certain level of sanctions on Russia. Do you think that the level of sanction they're hoping to met out on Russia would matter? Would it make any difference at all?
Right. So I know after the Crimea situation, one of the major things was the similar sanctions, and the idea was to not purchase gas, cut, the gas purchase between Europe and Russia. Well, mind you, it continued because Europe gets 40% of its gas from Russia.
Yes.
With what is happening with these sanctions, if they proceed, Europe is going to get severely hurt economically.
Okay.
We are already in a very dicey global economic situation. So the sanctions do not hurt Russia alone. They hurt like everyone. So it's also very important to know that as these sanctions are being meted out, yes, the US can be there and be very firm. But in Europe, there's a tricky situation going on because Germany needs the gas, you see, and there's already high prices in gas. So these sanctions may not be the wisest thing at this time, but we're all here to see what happens again.
Okay, let's come back home and practicalize the implications. Yesterday, the deputy majority leader has been saying that it's now more than ever as important for people to even pay and understand the e-levy because there's going to be some sort of economic distress. What did he mean by that?
Well, yeah, because obviously now oil prices have gone up. I said yesterday they were the highest in 7 years. It had gone up to 105, a barrel. And so we are looking at high oil prices. If the sanctions are placed and Russia also decides to cut gas, you can imagine how the price of gas is going to shoot up. I think there was a whole rumor about it going as high as 2,000 euros. I don't know if it's a liter or so. And so you can imagine those of us on this side of the world where when the heavy economic powers are having their back and forth, like the trade wars between China and the US, we felt the brunt of it, whether it's with the price of aluminium or fertilizer. We are already owing huge sums of money to fertilizer companies that are foreign owned. So when this happens, it's going to affect us drastically. I'm already foreseeing that the next couple of weeks will not be easy globally. I know Biden came out yesterday encouraging oil companies not to hike the prices and take advantage of the situation. This is not something that you use, you can just tell people not to do. And doing that, when oil goes up, everything else changes. And so I'm very concerned with the e-levy situation. I don't know if the e-levy can save the severity of the economic crisis. So I think that is a little, it may be misleading because if you would tell people to pay the e-levy, the life will be easier. It won't.
Okay.
So you might as well, let them know that if they are paying the e-levy, it's for the e-levy itself, but it's not necessarily that it's going to change the economic situation because this is a dire situation and it will take more than 7 billion cities to do that. So.
Okay. Right. I'll come back to you, but please do stay. Let me go to our security analyst, Adib Sani. Hi, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. Thank you for asking. You must be busy this morning. Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure. Always.
Yes. So there's been that call that students or Ghanaians living in Ukraine should be evacuated because of security reasons. Please break this down for us.
Well, I remember clearly when the coronavirus pandemic started, we had some students getting caught in the confusion in China to the extent that some couldn't even afford the means to purchase meals. It was quite a bit of a dicey situation until government took steps to get, I think, almost all of them back home safely. Also, some few years, we had some Ghanaians stranded in Libya. It had to involve the intervention of government and other stakeholders to get involved after several calls by them, both here and, of course, there. And we were also part of the calls on government to immediately take action to bring them back. You see, it is the responsibility of every government to ensure the safety of its citizens, whether they are home or abroad. And it is the responsibility of the Ghanaian government to ensure that these students are back home safely. We are in a war situation, for crying out loud. And in war situations, things can escalate, things can de-escalate, anything can happen at any time. That is why you're not supposed to take chances.
Okay.
And I was thinking that our research department, which is our external intelligence arm, should have also gathered enough intelligence to indicate whether indeed the Russians would be going in or not. Even if they didn't, Western intelligence, particularly the US, British, French intelligence, pointed to the fact that, look, this is what is being prepared in the kitchen and Putin is likely to attack. So I thought that in the midst of all of this, we should have taken immediate steps to get these students back. Unfortunately, Ghanaian authorities seem to be reactive rather than being proactive when it comes to issues like this.
Right, good time. So take us back and break it down again. What does it really mean, this conflict between Russia and Ukraine? I know that it is underpinned by cultural differences, cultural similarities, political, misunderstanding, and even whether or not these international sanctions, if you break a treaty, would even mean anything to Russia. Just break the whole thing down for a very simple Ghanaian to understand.
Okay, simply put, it is world powers flexing their muscles, unfortunately, in a Ukrainian turf. They say when two elephants are fighting, it is the grass that suffers. Under President Putin, we've seen NATO expansionism, 4 waves of it into Eastern Europe. After the Second World War, Western Europe and the Americans came together and formed NATO.
Right.
And the Russians, together with the former USSR countries, also decided to form the Warsaw Pact. Unfortunately for them, the Warsaw Pact didn't see the light of day. However, NATO continued to date. However, the biggest issue the Russians have is the fact that NATO is creeping slowly into Eastern Europe and getting closer and closer to Russia. So it's just like your enemy being your neighbor. That is what the Russians don't want.
Okay.
If Ukraine joins NATO, what it means is America can bring all its military arsenals to Ukraine because it is part of NATO. And that is a bit of a discomfort to the Russians, because what it also means is the US can stage attacks against Russian interests because they are at their doorsteps. Okay. Their spies can come into Russia and leave Russia and all that. And that is what the Russians don't want. Hence, the need for them to create that buffer by taking over Ukraine, installing a puppet regime, and keeping NATO at an arm's length.
Okay. What's the worst that can happen to Ukraine?
The worst would be for the Russians to take over the whole country. This was supposed to be a limited operation to help Russian-backed separatists in the Donetsk and Luhansk side of Ukraine, which the Russians helped the separatists take over after the Russian-backed leader was overthrown in a revolution in Ukraine in 2014. That was the same time they took over Crimea. Okay. However, they've decided to extend it, and we are receiving information that they are a few kilometers outside of Kiev. So what would happen is they would disable, or so to speak, decimate the government in place install a puppet regime, take over the whole country, and establish that buffer they so need between them and Western Europe.
Okay, so in simple terms, the territorial takeover they want. Okay, please stay on, and if I have any questions, I'll come back to you. But let me go back to the Ghanaian students living in Kharkiv and also Sumi. Hi, Kwesi and Joseph.
Hello.
Hi, great. So what exactly would be your request? Would you like to stay or you want to be evacuated?
Okay, for now, looking at the situation this morning, I can't say we want to evacuate it or we want to stay, because this tension, we don't know what is going to happen in the next hours or in the following day. We don't know. Like as we said earlier, this morning there's...
Yes. Did I lose Joseph? Maybe let me go to Kwesi. Hi, Kwesi.
Yes.
Did I lose? Okay. If I lost Joseph, let me go to Kwesi. Hi, Kwesi.
Yeah, hello.
Right. So I was asking Joseph if he wanted to come back home, or but he was just telling us that he's not too sure whether or not they want to come or not. But what have you been picking up? Have you heard whether you're going to be evacuated back home or you're going to be managing the situation until when? What have you been gathering?
Yeah, as I said earlier, we were told that we should manage the situation and that the government is, communicating with our leaders, our student union leaders over here, to communicate to us the time and any decision, the time as and when they want to evacuate us, and any decision, the student unions will distribute them to us. And for the earlier question, I don't know about Joseph, but I want to be evacuated because I do not want to wait and see what the worst could be, because yesterday it was a rather unsettling situation here. It was panic everywhere because, during these crossfires, we could even have stray bullets. You could have stray bullets. You could have casualties. I don't want to wait to see what the worst could be. I just want to be home safe and sound.
Okay. But what other, have you picked up on anything what the other African country or governments are doing for their students?
Well, so far, at the beginning of the conflict, before yesterday, the Indian students had wanted, I think there was a directive for the Indian students to be evacuated. But I think that did not go through. The reason is unknown to me. But for the rest of the other African students, I think it's still the same directive to stay put and to adhere to all the safety precautions.
Okay. Joseph, are you back online?
Yes.
Joseph, how long have you been in Kharkiv?
I've been in Kharkiv since last year. And then please, I want to say something. The reason why I'm saying that I can't see that I want to be evacuated, but as a student body, we have a leader. And in Ghana too, we have our government. So as they said that we should observe the safety protocols, we have to observe it and wait for them. That's what I mean.
Okay.
I'm not saying that I'm not. Yes, that's what I mean, because I can. Yes.
Okay. But talking about your meals.
Okay.
Oh, well, please, Kwesi, go on. Have got something to add? Go on.
No. I wanted to add to what they are talking about. You see, the thing is, we need to be careful because it's a war situation. And you might have seen airports getting bombed. And at this time, you need to be extremely circumspect, else you risk getting shot down. Okay, let's not forget the flight that was shot within Ukrainian territory some few years back, only for them to realize that it was a civilian flight. And when Soleimani was also killed by the US, Iran also mistakenly shot down a civilian airliner. The same could happen anywhere. That is why you need to exercise a great deal of circumspection. At this time, anything is seen as a threat. You could be shot down by the Russians, you could be shot down by the Ukrainians.
Right.
Okay. But my biggest issue is the fact that we could have handled this better from the start. That is why I'm accusing the Ghanaian authorities of being reactive rather than being proactive. So if they have to find safe havens for the students to hunker down, in the meantime, I think that will be better than flying them.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for that one. Thank you. Joseph, again, you're telling me you've been there for a little over a year.
Yes, please.
Okay, but back to the situation now. How are you feeding? You tell me you're able to go to get some good. Kwesi earlier said they're able to go to the shops to pick up a few things that they need. But how easy or difficult is that?
Okay. Yesterday in the morning, like around 7:30 there, about 7:45. Then we had an information that we should go to the nearest shops and get the food stuff and then water. So when I rushed in there, before I realized all the bread and some waters, they've all almost finished. So I only get 2 bottles of water and then some few biscuits with me. And then looking at the situation yesterday, in fact, it was very bad. When you will not even feel like you are hungry because this life-threatening something. It was so weird to us. So me myself yesterday, I was not able to, eat at all because, if it's you, I don't even think you can even feel hungry.
I agree. But have you been able to pick up some items that you need?
Yes.
Okay. Mami, back to you. So now, as a country, what exactly could be the way forward for us as Ghanaians? We can only think about ourselves before we think about outside, but what exactly could be the way forward, especially they not touting the e-levy as the way out?
So when you say the way out, in terms of what, economic crisis,
Absolutely,
in terms of protecting?
yes, economic.
Oh, the thing is that we've been plunged into a crisis. So the only thing is that how do you begin to take steps to facilitate whether it's trade within the region or the continent, whether it's thinking of how you can improve local businesses, because the cost of even importing is going to go up, right? And so you're now looking at the price of goods and services, food and everything. And so now you have to start thinking more about how can we have more stuff that we can consume locally and produce locally. That's where we should be thinking. Our mind should be going towards that because we're in a very, the way COVID came and surprised everybody, we are in a time where there is, so in international relations, they'll tell you that there's a fight to have more of a balance of power on the global scale, whether it's with the financial economy and stuff, and people moving towards cryptocurrency and the idea that keeping the dollar more powerful. And so we can get caught up in the midst of all of this to have a more multilateral power, power is well managed or balanced out on a global scale. And in the midst of that, it will cause the price of things to go up and just things to become tough economically. So I recommend that we begin to look within as a country and as a continent. Ghana is too small to think of just itself. So we should now start looking more at African relations and how can we look at farming, improving our production of food. You see, right now, as you were speaking, when things get hard, what's the first thing you think about? What you're going to eat. Yes. And that's really what we should be focusing on heavily as a country around this time. Local consumption, local production, and it will save us a lot of stress for the next couple of years. That's what I would say.
Okay. Finally, before I let you all go, have you seen the press release from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs? Okay, so let me just give you an overview of it. So the government of Ghana has noted with concern the deteriorating military situation in Ukraine, which directly impacts on the security and safety of our nationals, including over 1,000 students in Ukraine. The Ghana diplomatic mission in Benin and Switzerland has urged all Ghanaian nationals in Ukraine to limit their movement in public places as they obtain essential goods and remain in their homes or move to government places of shelter. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration wishes to assure the general public of its concern, and particularly our compatriots in Ukraine, that all efforts are being made to ensure their safety and security. Our diplomatic mission and our honorary consulate are directly engaged with the relevant authorities in Ukraine in an effort to secure the safety and protection of Ghanaian citizens during the difficult times. And this is to all of us, media houses, and even to all Ghanaians. What do you make of this?
Is this the question to me, please?
Yes, I'll go.
Oh, yes. Okay, yeah, sure. I think that fundamentally one of the things I'll say is, and it's good we have the students here, that, and as even Adib Sani said, I don't think that it's the best time to try to move anyone because things are a little dicey. But number one, make sure that people are in safe havens, and number two, access to, even if it's, I don't know how the foreign mission can do that, whether it's in Russia or Ukraine or parts of Western Europe, but the missions coming together to see how they can get these students access to what they need, whether it's food, water, little things that they need to keep them put. I think that that's the best support that we can give, the safety and ensure that they have their basics, so that while they are staying in safety, they can also make sure that they have something to eat and the basic thing that they need to survive. So I would say this is what they put out. I don't know, I cannot speak to validate it or not. I just hope that something will be done to protect our students and ensure that at least they have the best while we are trying to figure out what the best move is for them.
Thank you, Mami. Thank you, Mami. I'd go to Joseph and Kwesi if they're still online. I'll take, what do you make of the release from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs? Kwesi, you can go. Hi, Kwesi.
Yes.
Yes, you can go.
So for that, I think we'll just have to stick to what the government is saying because, well, they know best. Even though we are in the crisis, I may be tempted to, speak out of fear, but then we are safe now. So it's okay to stick to their directive and wait for them to make the best decision for us.
Okay, Joseph, yeah.
Yeah, hello. Yes, I think as my colleagues rightly say, I've also, because at this time it's so dangerous for us to move. So I pray that God will guide us and we will observe the safety protocols for now.
Okay. Finally, Adib, yes.
Well, I don't know how good the communication between government and the students in Ukraine is. I don't know how often government communicates with them, but I think that at this time it is really trying. Government should keep in touch. There should be two-way communication so we get to know their menacing challenges and see how we can help. However, it is also important to establish certain protocols on the ground to keep them safe. These Western countries have what we call travel advisories. So when an American is coming to Ghana, they tell him, don't go to this area, don't go to that area. If you go to that area, the possibility of you getting robbed is very high and all that. So if we are able to maintain that communication with them, we should be able to give them these tips to keep themselves safe. I understand the Ukrainian authorities even asked residents of Kiev to put out their lights at night so they don't become targets. I don't know whether this has gotten to our students. So I think we just have to maintain that contact and try as much as we can to keep them safe.
Thank you so much, gentlemen and lady. We've been talking to Hotel Joseph Kwabla, medical student in Kharkiv, and also Kwesi JB Minta being also in Sumi. Thank you, students, and please stay safe out there, okay? And do feel free to contact us just in case you need anything in terms of information, okay? Thank you, Mame Dakwa Arinado. She's an international trade law expert, and we definitely spoke to our security analyst, Mr. Adib Sani. Thank you so much. You have a great day.
Yeah.
That's more on Prime Morning. Don't go away. Do stay.